Hi folks, how's it going? You are very welcome to another exam predictions video here with examrevision.ie. In this video, we are going to look at what might come up on the junior cycle history exam in June 2025. So what are the probable questions for June 2025 in junior cycle history? Well, the first and probably most important topic in junior cycle history is the work of the historian. This is the one topic that's guaranteed to be on the exam paper. And these questions are embedded usually throughout the entire paper. Okay, and I'm going to go through some examples of what these questions could look like later on in the video and what you definitely need to know in terms of the work of a historian before you sit your junior cycle history exam. The second topic I believe has a strong chance of making an appearance is a pattern of change. All right. Now, you probably did, there's a number of different patterns of change. You more than likely did health and medicine, but we're going to go through this in later detail later in the video. The third topic I believe you need to know is the plantations, and I believe that there's a strong chance this will rear its head. Another topic is the experience of women in 20th century Ireland. Really important one. Has not appeared on any exam yet. And again, we'll look at all these later on in the video. We must know international cooperation, justice and human rights, and that can either be the United Nations or the European Union. You probably did the European Union. And finally then, the Cold War. So before we delve into some of the more specific aspects of those topics, I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to go through the exam revision package with you. Okay, so creating an account and joining exam revision gives you access to hundreds of bite-sized video tutorials that makes learning easier for students. You can learn at your own pace and in your own time. Each package also comes with a number of other fantastic resources to help you as a student navigate your junior or senior cycle exams. So what are these resources? Well, firstly, you get bite-sized video tutorial grinds. Okay, so every topic is broken up into a number of short videos, anywhere between 5 and 12 to 15 minutes, explaining the topic in detail by an expert teacher. You'll get PowerPoint presentations. You'll get H1/distinction standard notes, depending on whether it's senior cycle or junior cycle. You will get access to exam and mock paper questions and the marking scheme. So what that means is you can actually build your own exam and you get access to the marking scheme as well. You get quizzes. So these are like, nice handy ways to revise, short bite-sized quizzes on every topic. They usually have multiple choice answers. You get to fill out a reflection log to reflect on your studies, and it also includes smart adaptive technology to guide student learning as well. So, if you're a junior cycle student, there's currently 8 junior cycle subjects here on the exam revision platform. We also have these 3, French, Spanish and religion, in development as well. And you should know, guys, it's really important, is these are constantly updated. So for example, the new junior cycle and senior cycle exams from June 2025 with their marking schemes will eventually be uploaded onto the platform as well. So the platform is constantly updating and evolving to keep with the current trends. If you are a senior cycle, we have an abundance of subjects for you. So there are 21 Leaving Cert subjects that are fully completed and uploaded onto the platform. Okay, and like with junior cycle, these will be updated with exam papers and marking schemes in the coming months as well. I suppose not only are these courses very beneficial for students, but if you're a teacher and you're looking for really good high quality resources for your class, it's also of huge benefit to you. Okay, so you can share with your students the notes, the PowerPoints, the quizzes, the exam papers, as well as the supplementary videos. Okay, so for example, if you were covering a topic with your students, let's say you were doing some kind of leaving cert physical geography, there are videos there that you can share with your students in a run up to exam time to help them with their revision at home. If you would like to check us out on Trustpilot or Google reviews, there are absolutely dozens of 4 and 5-star reviews from both teachers, students, as well as parents who are extremely complimentary towards the platform. Guys, at the moment we also have a sale on, so if you use code 2025 tips, you get 10% off a package. Okay, so really good opportunity now in the run up to the state exams to get in on a cheaper package. So folks, with that, it's time to get back to our junior cycle history exam predictions. So I'd mentioned earlier, the work of the historian is guaranteed to be on the paper. Okay, so we've seen 3 exams so far, and it's the only topic that's been on every exam. And as I said, guys, it will appear throughout the entire paper. So like there could be, say, question 1 could be specifically the work of a historian. But I guarantee you there'll be other questions related to the work of a historian throughout the paper. If I had a class and I only had a week to prepare them for junior cycle history, I would do the work of a historian. I'm going to show you what some examples of these questions could look like on your exam now. So these are some examples of what these questions could look like, okay? Now, these questions are taken from past papers going back the last 3 years and are taken throughout the paper. So we'll start at the top. Difference between an archive and a museum. Name an archive, museum, library or heritage centre you've studied. Name an item from it, okay? Explain one advantage of showing information about the plate of light on a map rather than in a written paragraph. So that was on a question from the famine a couple of years ago. Is source 1 a primary or secondary source? So it's really important to know the difference between a primary source and a secondary source. Then it's really important to know about things like bias, propaganda. What's a subjective source? What's an objective source? Written source, tactile source, visual source. What's a strength and a weakness of a tactile source? Okay, so your textbook should have all this information in it. All right. In relation to the GPO, what are 2 ways the visual evidence supports the written evidence in source 1? I Was a Boy in Belton by Tommy Reichenthal is an autobiography. What's the difference between a biography and an autobiography? Identify 2 different sources to find out about this. How many decades are represented on the timeline? Is source 2 a primary or secondary source? In source 2, do you think Elizabeth Richards is positive, negative, or neutral? 2 differences between an archive and a library, sorry. And what evidence about the Holocaust is provided by 3 different types of sources? So they're just some of the work of historian questions that we have seen on the paper. And like I said, folks, can be seen throughout the entire exam paper, not just in the first or second question. So the next prediction for June is a pattern of change. Okay. Now there are a number of patterns of change you'll have studied. Now I believe most of you will have done health and medicine. However, this might not be the case. Other patterns of change could have included crime and punishment, food and drink, work and leisure, and fashion and appearance. Okay, and it'll more than likely come up as sort of a longer style question, maybe half to 3/4 of an A4 page. And how you would navigate this question is you should be able to discuss how your chosen pattern of change developed across 3 different time periods. So for example, let's say I did health and medicine. I should be able to talk about a couple of ways health and medicine maybe developed from, let's say, the Roman times into medieval times into maybe Industrial Revolution or the 20th century. So I might talk about Galen, okay, a Roman physician. I might talk about medieval times, talk about the impact, things like amputation, bloodletting, and the impact of the Black Death. I might go on to then industrial times, and I might talk about things like Edward Jenner's vaccine, Louis Pasteur's work, And then I might finish by talking about the 20th century, things like the discovery of penicillin, Alexander Fleming, Forrest C. Shackley, and the discovery of multivitamins, or something like that. Okay, but I would envisage it'll more than likely be a longer style question. Okay, so it's really important to be able to maybe have three different time periods and talk about your chosen pattern of change and how it's developed and changed in three different time periods. Another probable topic for junior cycle history in June 2025 is the plantations. Now, you probably did the Ulster plantation. You might have touched on the Munster plantation and Lee Shoffley, but the one you would have done in detail is more than likely the Ulster plantation. So it's yet to appear on the exam paper. And what I'd be prepared for is a source-based question that also includes a longer knowledge question, okay? Now, the important things to know here is how the plantation was carried out and the impacts of the plantation, okay? So I would make sure the key thing I want you to know is the main changes that occurred in Ireland as a result of the plantations. I'm going to show you from an old mock paper what this question might look like. Now remember, it has not appeared on your exam yet, but teachers will have given sample mock papers back 4 or 5 years ago to see what questions could look like. So the first few parts of this question, A, B, C, and D, were based off a straightforward source question related to the plantations. E, F, and G get a bit more challenging. So they ask students to name a plantation, name who ordered the plantation, and then explain the changes that occurred. So you need to name and explain maybe 4 to 5 changes that occurred. So, cultural changes, a new language, change in farming practices, religion, so the introduction of the Anglican and Presbyterian religions. We have violence as well, troubles. So again, this has not appeared on any junior cycle history exam yet. This is like an old mock paper I'm showing you, but this is what this question may look like, okay? Also, be able to talk about how the plantation was carried out, so how land was divided up into estates. We had undertakers and servitors granted land. You might build, for example, defensive features like castles and bonds. You have to bring a garrison of soldiers over, those kind of things. So another topic I believe could rear its head is the experience of women in 20th century Ireland. Again, like the plantations, like the patterns of change, it is yet to appear on the exam. We have not seen this question yet. So what we need to look at it is how the lives of women changed in 20th century Ireland. What areas are we talking about here? So you need to look at things like working life, so things like the marriage bar, sports, so things like the foundation of the LGFA and Camogie associations, politics, so women's more kind of gradual involvement in politics in Ireland, and institutional abuse, like for example the Magdalen laundries, what they were, and why they eventually closed. Probably a source-based question with a longer style question towards the end of it that maybe asks you to explain how the lives of women have changed throughout the 20th century in Ireland. Okay, so those few areas there are important. Look at your notes in your textbook for more kind of clarification on these. The next topic I believe might appear on the exam is a topic, your international cooperation, justice and human rights. Now, that you might be thinking, what does that mean? So that will probably mean for you the European Union. You might have studied the EU and Ireland's links to the EU, or the United Nations. Now, it depends which one your teacher did it to. Most textbooks and teachers I know will look at the European Union. But just as a heads up, that question will be worded like this. It could say like, write about an organization you studied that promotes international cooperation, justice and human rights. It probably won't say write about the European Union. Okay, so it's important to be familiar with the terminology here. Yeah, you more than likely did the European Union. Make sure to understand how it promotes international cooperation and justice and human rights. So if we look at the European Union, that means things like the European Court of Justice, the Common Market, the Common Travel Area, the Common Agricultural Policy, the Euro currency, etc., etc. They're just some of the things, some of the ways the European Union promotes justice, cooperation, and human rights. Now, it's also important to look at Ireland and the European Union. So Ireland joined the European Union in 1973. Okay, so it's important to understand how Ireland also benefited from EU membership. That could be a question where there could be two parts to it. There could be a source-based question, just a general question on the European Union, and then there could be a part E or a part F, a longer question that says, explain how Ireland's benefited from EU membership, or explain how Ireland has benefited from UN membership, for example. Okay, so that's really, really important there. Again, has not appeared on the exam yet, so I think there's a strong chance it might appear on it in June. The final topic I believe could appear on the exam is the Cold War. Again, like the ones I've mentioned, it is yet to appear on the exam. Okay. Again, like it's how it's going to appear. Probably some kind of source-based question with a longer question. Okay. So I would make sure to know in detail at least two events from the Cold War. These could be the Berlin airlift, the Cuban Missile Crisis. It could also be like the Korean War. It could be the Vietnam War. I'd make sure to know at least two events in detail. What do I mean by in detail? So be able to write the cause, the course, and the consequences of each event. That's really, really important. Again, has yet to appear on the exam, so I do believe there's a strong chance it could appear. It could come up like this, for example, there could be a source-based question on, say, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and, A, B, C are straightforward questions on the source, and then a part D or a part E could be, apart from the Cuban Missile Crisis, write an account of the main cause, course, and consequence of another event you studied from the Cold War. So that, you'd have to write about, say, the Berlin airlift, or, for example, the Vietnam War. So it's really, really important to know about those going into the exam. Now, just before we finish up, okay, so 2025 is the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. So there could possibly be a World War II related question on the exam as well. So it's another thing to be looking at in the build up to the exam in June. Folks, thanks a million for tuning in. I really hope you found this video helpful and useful, and the very best of luck in your studies going forward.